Well, welcome everyone to our webinar on mindful extrasensory perception, hosted tonight by Paul Kellogg and myself, Roger Ringo. With us, tonight's going to be, looks like kind of a smaller, intimate group, so we'll be able to kind of custom for you as well. If there's a particular aspect of extrasensory perception that you're interested in or curious about, then go ahead and type it in the chat box, and we'll answer those questions throughout the webinar, as well as there'll be a question and answer period at the end. So put that in the chat areas. Any questions? We're also recording this, and after the webinar is over, I'll be sending a link out to everyone, so that if you'd like to listen to it again, that'll be there, and you can fast forward, listen to parts that you want, and it's a good little reference. So why don't you go ahead, Paul? Why don't you take us away?
All right. Well, there we are, Paul Kellogg and Roger Ringo, both residing in Iowa. And we both actually are on tour, workshop and seminar tours in the Colorado, New Mexico area in September. Roger's going to be doing a session in some sessions in Denver and Colorado Springs, and I'm right now currently in Durango, Colorado, sharing with a great group of people here. And Susan, my wife Susan, and I will be going down to New Mexico later in September. So we're both really excited about sharing all of this. And you'll see in just a few moments, this is just one aspect of the New Spiritual Horizons programs which we espouse. My personal experience, I got involved in this when I was 17 years old and gave my first lecture in the New Spiritual Horizons Energy when I was 18, and it's just been a career for me for a long time. My wife Susan and I met through these programs, and we raised our 5 children in it. It just was such a life-changing experience to be able to come to know myself more clearly, connect with my inner guidance, and also pass that along to other people who have like and kind interests. Roger and Diana and their family and our family have been, kind of all grew up together. Kids grew up, and Roger and Diana and Susan and I kind of grew up together as well. So it's been a great experience to be able to looking forward to sharing more of this with you. Roger?
Thanks, Paul. My story kind of starts back in my middle 20s. When I got out of college, I went through college as a mechanical engineer, so I'm very analytical oriented, but I always believed that there were little things that went bump in the middle of the night, and I never discounted that little illogical, unrational experiences that science and logic can never understand. So I've always kind of straddled both sides of the spiritual fence and the planet Earth fence, because I believe there's truth in all of that. So and I encountered the New Spiritual Horizons programs that Paul and I are part of back in my middle 20s. And when I first experienced this, the area of the extrasensory perception, or the 4 types of perceptions, was always just so fascinating to me, because it helped explain so much about our interactions of family relationship. It helped me to appreciate the uniqueness and individualities of other people, because I had a context in which to understand and appreciate other points of view and not just my own. So I think Paul and I are going to share with you some of our experiences on that this evening, and what these 4 types of DSP is about. But just briefly, the New Spiritual Horizons programs that we're about is a community-based program of spiritual, like-minded people who primarily the goal is to get people together so we can share openly and freely about what our experiences are without being judged. Because there's a magic in this open sharing of our experiences that we're able to find out that, there's nothing wrong with us just because we're a little different, and that it helps to learn how to trust our hunches because we hear other people's experiences as well. So the three main areas of our group work and community programs are learning about your life purpose, why you're here as a soul on planet Earth, how to use your ESP or extrasensory perception, and then how to communicate with your angels or your spirit guides, that inner guidance. So those three areas are the foundation that we build a lot of our classes and programs on. So the topics we're going to be covering tonight is what is extrasensory perception and the four types of perception that encompasses that. We're going to find out some upcoming programs and events if you'd like to learn more. And we're also going to have time to take questions that you may have about ESP. Also, for some of the listeners who've just logged in here in the last few minutes, anytime you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat box. You'll see that in the little gray oval to the right of the people icon in your dashboard. And we will either take those questions and answer them through during the webinar, or we will be answering them at the end. But there will be a question and answer period at the end after we're all done. So Paul, why don't you share with everyone about this particular symbol?
Sure, you bet. The chart that you see in front of you, I actually put that up on a wall or on a PowerPoint presentation and shine it up on a wall or screen. That is representative of the founder of organizations, Dr. Francisco Coles, years and decades of research and development of techniques to help people truly understand the reason why we're here on planet Earth, what our life purpose is, and all the tools that we have available to us. And a couple of key points, because that chart and the symbols there, we actually go through quite a bit in order to be able to help people have the full big picture of all of what New Spiritual Horizons does. One of the top ones is that center stick figure. That's a symbol for you and me. We all have a physical body. We have physical bodies that hold us here on planet Earth so that we can learn and grow and experience. The little halo above the stick person's head represents the soul or the spirit or the real you, your life force, that intelligent life force energy. And that has to do with how we experience life. It's the sum total of all of the experiences we've gathered throughout eons of time. That's the psychic you, or the part of you that has extrasensory perception, which is what we're going to be exploring tonight. That energy senses other energies. And because of that, you have impressions and feelings and experiences that aren't necessarily logical or rational and so forth. That soul is also a part of that bigger universe. Science says you're a total component of all things, that you can't create or destroy energy. All you do is change its form. So in one form or another, we always have been and always will be. Religion says you return to God or the Father when you pass on. We're at one with that. Because everything is energy, we can experience the wisdom of that universe, or some people might say the wisdom of God, and so forth, because it's already a part of us inside. So this evening, we're going to be exploring the four ways that you perceive energy: intuition, vision, prophecy, and feeling. It describes some of the lifestyles that they have and so forth. So to help you get a bigger picture, each one of us has all four of those areas. You're a combination, just like you have eyes and ears that you can hear and see with. You also have those inner senses. So we're going to be exploring each one of those. Those senses are helping us to clarify what's really going on. The other half of the book of life, that's the subconscious. Each of those areas has personality and lifestyle characteristics, and we're going to be exploring some of that tonight. It's just invaluable when we're connecting with our relationships, whether it's personal loved ones or whether it's co-workers or the boss at work, to know where they're coming from and not just assume that they think like I do, and that some of those traits that they may have are things that you can navigate to truly be in connection closely with the people that you care about. The other aspect to all of this is that your team of guides or angels, inner guidance, the higher self, however you relate to that higher source of inspiration, actually communicates through those 4 types of perception. And we'll explain that just a little bit as well. On to the next one, Roger. There we go. So the first one, let's talk about intuition. This is not so much women's intuition. Intuition, if you look it up in the dictionary, it means instant understanding. And people strong in that pick up that energy that I was describing, and they instantly put a thought to that energy. So if someone is thinking about them, they'll pick up the vibrations and actually experience the thought of what that person is. They call that clairaudience, clear hearing. So they get lots of concepts and ideas and mental impressions all day long. As a matter of fact, we talk about most people actually experience 90 to 100 ESP impressions every day or even more, but they just don't realize that that's happening. The intuitive person in their energy is a born leader. They love to be in charge and organize things and lead the team, lead the pack. They're very direct with people. They love challenges. They love to take on something. They always have a plan A, B, or C, and D. So they have all the solutions covered and all the flanks covered to be able to handle any situation easily. And because of that kind of quick thinking, it's easy for them to grasp all kinds of different situations and understand it, actualize it. They really are very aware of discerning what other people are experiencing or going through. And a part of them has that sense of fairness or justice when dealing with other people. Their kind of their mantra is, if I can't do good, I'm not going to do harm. So they have a real clear motive with all that. They are not so detail-oriented. They love the big picture. Quality is very important to them because of that big picture. And again, they have that ability to hear the energy, experience it in their thoughts. So that's the first one, Roger.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Paul. As you were listening to that description of the clairaudient part of you, you'll probably realize that there's 2 parts, really. There's 2 parts to these 4 ESP types, or types of ESP. There's you might say, the psychic sensitivity, or the spiritual part, which is our sensitivity of how we interpret what it is that I'm sensing energetically. And then there's also the personality traits. So you could say there's a spiritual part of it and maybe like a psychological personality trait. And that was some of the genius that, to me, Dr. Cole, the founder of our organization, put together, was bringing together, those 2 aspects. So the gift of vision is the clairvoyant part of you. That's the part of you that just by nature, just instinctively, you form pictures or images from impressions when someone is talking to you or giving you directions. Typically, a visionary will actually see landmarks. If an intuitive is given direction, they kind of hear words and street names. A visionary will see landmarks, to help guide them there. So it's more of that visual orientation or visual interpretation of the information that's being sent to you. So clairvoyant means clear seeing. It's having a picture in your mind's eye of what it is that you're sensing. This is the part of you that grasps the overall situation very easily, very similar to the intuitive part, but a little different in that Your visionary part sees where everything fits together. You can see all facets of a project and how they're integrated together. Your intuitive part understands the facts and the information. Your visionary part kind of gets that picture of how it all integrates in together. So when a visionary is not under, you might say, pressure from other people, they usually have a very sunny, very positive personality. They see the best in most situations. They really like to, help people to help themselves. But when they're under pressure, sometimes the visionary part becomes kind of a perfectionist. You see all the flaws instead of necessarily all the beauty. So there again, that visionary part is a two-edged sword depending on if you're under pressure or not. And it's also the part of you that very quickly tunes into the balance and harmony of a situation. If you're high in this, you probably have noticed when you walk into a room, you will just immediately notice if everything's in place, if there's cobwebs in the corner, if there's 5 chairs on one side of the aisle and 2 on the other. You're always attuned to that sense of balance and harmony. So that's your vision, your clairvoyant part. Now, a third type is what we call the gift of prophecy, and that is the inner knowing part of you. That's the part that knows, you just know, but you don't know how you know. So there again, the intuitive will have an understanding, they get the facts. Your visionary part will see the big picture and see where things fit in, but your prophetic part is just an inner knowing. And spiritually, that is the spiritual gift of trance or mediumship. And you have that awareness or that ability to just flow with spirit, and in a very relaxed way, your guides will channel through you. There's an aspect of public speaking, or even in sports, where they talk about being in the flow, and something just takes over and you just become one with that moment and in the flow of just doing, and then later don't realize how you accomplished all these marvelous feats. Well, that's your prophetic gift of being in the moment of that one with all. Now, from a personality standpoint, this person has the traits of being very unconventional rather than more conventional. They're usually kind of like a little off the wall, or just has very unusual perspectives and ideas. They're very accurate and right on, but usually they're ahead of their time. They know things that's going to happen before they actually know. And this is also a person who likes to be very creative. A person high in prophecy, when they cook, they rarely will use a recipe. They just know what's going to taste good, and it's like a little bit of this and a little pinch of that, and if they follow a recipe, it will only be for about the first 5 minutes, and then they just get real creative. So it's this prophetic part of you that doesn't like boring routine. You always want to be mixing it up. So this type of person, also when they're in some type of management or area of responsibility, working with teams, they're very open and responsive to the ideas and insights of others. And so they make really good managers. They're kind of like that diplomatic style. They're very diplomatic in listening to other people. They have their own strong inner beliefs and inner knowings, but yet they're very responsive to other people as well. So generally, the prophetic type is a little more unconventional, unpredictable, but very caring and loving. Anything you'd like to add on to that, Paul?
Yeah, Roger. The one key thing here on the prophetic part is they are, that creativity that they have is just very powerful. They love to dance. They love to sing and dance. They love to sing in the shower and put their heels up and rearrange the furniture in the house. Anything that creates that, like you said, that newness and that unconventional, let's drive to work a different way today, or take a hike on a different trail. It always keeps them fresh and open to that spiritual part, which is that very, very creative.
Okay, now Paul's going to share with you on the gift of feeling.
All right. Well, again, to reprise it, you have all four of these. One tends to be a little more prominent in how you're making your decisions or what you're basing your decisions on. So we're born with a particular order of these, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So the intuitive part, picks up that energy and hears it, puts thoughts to it, needs to understand. Your visionary part picks up that same energy, puts a picture to it, needs to see things clearly before they can move into action. The prophetic part just picks up that energy and just instinctually knows it. Sometimes before they actually pick it up, they know something's coming. And then your feeling part is a very unique perception because it experiences that energy, the same energy. It actually experiences the sensation of that energy. It feels this way or feels that way. In the psychic circle, they call that clairsentio, which means clear sensations. French, all those clairs or clairaudience, clairvoyance, and so forth are French words. The feeling perception is just such a natural healer. They have a lot of love for people. They wear their heart on their sleeve. They just express themselves in that amazingly beautiful, calming, relaxing kind of way. At the same time, the passion that they have just really shows for what it is that they feel. So they really can feel with other people. And their impressions from other people, they can feel with you. It's kind of that empathic kind of feeling that they pick up and have that knowingness of what you're going through because they feel it too. That's something that they need to actually learn to discern better. As a matter of fact, all the perceptions need to learn to discern what it is that they're sensing or picking up so that they can tell the difference between what is their true feeling and what's someone else's energy that they're picking up. So the feeling part, again, is extremely sensitive to the vibrations in the environment, the feeling in the meeting room, all those kinds of things really impact them. Feeling people love to work with their hands. They're just very gifted at that. They're very patient with working with the details. So you often find them in the medical professions, let's say, or the healing arts professions, such as Reiki healers or Qigong or acupuncturists, chiropractors. They tend to have a real strong feeling part, as well as the standard medical profession, just gifted at that ability to do surgery or what have you. Some of the best nurses are the ones that have a good balance between that firmness of the intuitive part and the very calming energy of the feeling part. A lot of energy, very outgoing and friendly, as I said, and they need a blueprint. Feeling people need a blueprint. They need the instructions because they really care about their work, and once they feel good about it, they put their whole heart into it. It's that devotion to want to do a really good job. How about you, Roger? Anything else on the feeling part? Still have you there, Roger? There he is. I see the cursor.
I guess I better unmute myself if I want to say something.
That helps. That helps, brother. That helps.
That helps a lot. Didn't you hear me? Are you psychic? Anyway, to me, additionally, what is from meeting a lot of people who have this very strongly, when they walk into a room, they actually feel the energy as a physical sensation. You know, it's not an abstract. If there's a lot of tension, they feel it. It's in their solar plexus. If there's a lot of negativity, they feel it. If there's a lot of joy and happiness, they feel it. So that the feeling gift within each of us is that part that is aware of all that. And so in this whole mindful approach to our ESP, it's having that conscious awareness that what am I sensing? You know, as you walk, as you meet people, and as you approach situations, what is it I'm physically feeling? What am I hearing in my head? What do I see? What do I know? Just being alert, you know, kind of being mindful is really having an alertness to what I'm sensing and feeling, and the 4 gifts help me to put it into a context.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's take a look at how this impacts you in your daily life. Again, remember that you're all 4 of these. But if you're prominent in one area, or you grew up in a certain kind of a household, like I did, I grew up in a very prophetic household. I'm actually an intuitive person. So I was around people who were always finishing each other's sentences. You know, it was kind of hard to pin them down. There was kind of it was good live and let live, but it's kind of a come see, come saw, you know, kind of a feeling a lot of times to really, you know, be able to understand what it was that they were going through. At the same time, you know, I remembered a particular member of my family, super sensitive. They knew things before things were going to happen. And it was almost magical. It was kind of an awareness that you know, there was something more to life that was going on there. So, and then one thing that we talk about, there's a certain vibration for each of those perceptions, and purple, which kind of has that regal, magical, kind of bigger awareness feeling to it, is the color that you'll find for people that are very strong in prophecy. Matter of fact, we actually have a good friend and colleague of ours here in Durango, Josie Soignier, who has an amazingly balanced prophetic part. And Josie, would you like to share about what it's like to be a prophetic and how this has all helped you?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
All right. Loud and clear. So what's wonderful about being a prophetic, and actually what's wonderful about the Wayshores College, is I never knew before I started studying with and learning through the Wayshores College is, you know, the gifts and what they mean, and that we all come in with a gift order. So my gift order, my first 2 gifts are prophecy feeler. So I always would doubt my knowing. And it was very frustrating for me to do that because I just knew what I knew. And I always doubted it. And so when I found out that my first gift was prophecy, that I started really opening up and really honoring what I know. And my life shifted with that. The other thing that's really prominent is I love to plan, like with trips. I really need to plan things out. I can go with the flow, of course, but it's really important for me to plan. And so that's a really important aspect of me. When I travel, I need to consider that, you know, especially when I'm traveling with other people, because I really do like to know where I'm going. And I love, Paul, this is a new one that I learned from you, is I love to dance, and I love dancing freestyle. I don't need a partner. I don't need a partner to dance. And that's my favorite thing is dancing, and especially dancing outside. In Durango, we have outdoor concerts, and I had a ball with that this summer, just being able to dance. So it's really powerful to know my gifts and my order of gifts. And also it's really important to know other people's gifts, because it helps me to have compassion and empathy and to realize that they're just being who they are with those certain characteristics that Paul and Roger shared. So it's really empowering to know about those perceptions. And it's also enabled me to have clear channel with my angels, which is really, really life-changing for me. So I'm really grateful for the spiritual college of study. It's really changed my life. So I'm very grateful. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Josie. That was wonderful. You certainly do. You have the whole universe that you dance with.
Yes.
We'll go ahead and mute you out there, Josie, just a little bit. Roger, if you could help mute out Josie.
Yeah, got it.
A little bit of thanks. So let's go on and we'll talk about the visionary person in daily living. You know, visionaries are people strong in that their picture is very clear for them. So once they see it, they're not going to change their mind unless they start to see that a different picture has more strength than the one that they're currently seeing. So they can get very clear. Sometimes if they can get too rigid about all that, so that like the horse with blinders, they don't allow their peripheral vision to open up. So that tradition and that sense of a little bit of caution and conservative awareness is not a bad thing. It's just that they are focused on what they see. So, and because of that, their need for harmony, their need to have things in their proper place, things organized. It's very powerful for them, because if it is disorganized, they will experience that, and as a soul, they will feel disorganized inside. So all the things that they're very influenced by pictures, demonstrations, and illustrations. The prophetic person will kind of say, I know about that, or yes, I know what you're talking about. The visionary will say, well, boy, that looks good, or I see that. And when you're hearing them say that, that means that they're with you. I know, for example, my spouse and partner, Susan, is very strong in vision, and we have come to know each other very clearly. She knows that I have a lot of ideas and that she needs to help me to stay very one step at a time while she puts the picture together of all these wonderful, wild, crazy ideas that I have. Vice versa. I know that I need to make sure that she understands the things that I am sharing and is able to put a picture to that. But I also know that if she's not looking at me when I talk, she could potentially be focused on something else. And we often tease each other. She has her little way she teases me, and I tease her with, put your glasses on so you can hear me. And it's very true. They have to be able to focus with that sense of vision. Yellow is an aspect of the color that represents the visionary part. Very happy, uplifting, sunny, bright. Imagine the sun shining down in your garden and making the flowers brilliant. That's the energy of a visionary person. Very optimistic and heartfelt.
Awesome.
Over to you, Roger.
Okay. Well, the intuitive part, some of the little characteristics along with that is there's just an innate need to, you might say, be in charge, and without even trying or without even intending to, there's just a tendency to be a dominant force in among groups and people. And what's fascinating to me, because I've seen it play out so well in my relationship to my wife Diana and raising our kids and people I've interacted with, is depending on a person's first gift, there's certain inner dynamics that help me to appreciate myself and other people, like Josie was sharing previously. But if I don't understand that, it can put pressure on relationships, such as like the visionary likes a neat, attractive environment. But a lot of times the feeling gift just wants to feel good with their environment, or the prophetic person wants to be very creative with their environment. And so it doesn't make for a neat, tidy, traditional home, So there can be a lot of conflict over that without realizing the dynamics, or in communicating. So there's a lot of powerful impacts in the way that these gifts can take the pressure off of relationships once I understand the dynamic of, the other person. Diana, my wife, has the first gift of prophecy, but you can find out, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, there's ways that you can find out what your primary avenue of perception is. but Diana would just have an inner knowing about a decision that we would need to make. And as a visionary, I kind of like to see where it fits. You know, I need some more facts or information. And I would always ask her, well, how do you know? I mean, can you explain it? And she would just say, no, I just know. I know we need to do this, and it's not going to turn out unless we do it this way. And so that always created a lot of conflict early on. Well, each of us had a spiritual consultation in our church then, to where we found out that I'm visionary. I like things a little more traditional, things in their place. Diana has a prophetic style, which is free-flowing and spontaneous and very creative. And so if we're not careful, those two styles can create controversy. But if I know where that other person's coming from, if I know where I'm coming from, then it takes the pressure off of relationships, because I can meet that other person halfway. And we can both meet each other halfway because we know where the other person is coming from. So getting back to the intuitive gift, this is someone who gets really bored with also with routine activities. And they really like information shared with them in just bullet points or concise statements. So if you're if you're a detail person who likes to explain, you know, a situation in great detail, and you notice the other person is getting very impatient with you, or they may say, just give me the bottom line, or can you summarize that in a phrase or a sentence? Well, you're probably dealing with someone who's very high in that gift of intuition, because they just want the meat of it. They don't necessarily want the details. If they want the details, they'll ask for it. So red is the color that captures the gift of intuition. That's a very bold, strong, assertive color. If you are the gift of feeling, then like we shared earlier, it's easy to get overwhelmed by a strong energy. So feelers who are working a lot with, especially if there's a lot of visionaries and intuitive people in the family, you know, or in the work setting, it can feel intimidating and overpowering, because the feeling gift feels that. They feel that, you know, the strength of that energy, and it can be overpowering if it's not recognized. But it's the color blue that really captures that essence of the gift of feeling. You know, it's that caring, that loving, that soothing, empathetic color. That's the gift of feeling. So there again, in making all this practical, we've tried to bring out some of the basic fundamentals of the four gifts so that you can relate more to yourself and other people and understand why other people live their life maybe in a different style. You know, if you're a prophetic person, you just really love that free-flowing and spontaneity and unpredictability. But if you're, you know, one of the other gifts, that may be threatening. You know, if you so it really helps to understand where the gifts are operating and why you feel and experience what you feel. But it's a powerful way to meet people halfway and take the pressure off of raising children. When Diane and I had our two sons, we had their charts done when they were very, very young, because we wanted to know what their gift order was so we could communicate more effectively with them rather than just imposing our methods onto them. So very, very practical in relationships and family and parents and living life.
Yeah, Roger, I think I want to share just a brief story about the kids, because I know that we have so many parents, even with grown children, who come to us for consultation and get involved in the classes. They really want to understand their loved ones and their families better. And Susan and I had 5 children, and 2 of them were feelers, and then we had 1 of each of the rest of the perceptions. And just the stark difference in understanding them is amazing. Our oldest daughter was very visual. She would see the colors and auras around people, and we'd invariably get a call from a parent who said, you know, your daughter told me that I had a blue aura today. I need to talk to you more about that. You know, our second daughter, Sandra, is very intuitive. One time she was telling a story about friendly animals in the woods, and there was a sign as you entered the woods that said all the animals are friendly. Well, after a little while of the story, I asked Sandra, Sandra, is the tiger friendly? And she just said, Dad, go back and read the sign. It was very practical, very common sense, and in your face, blunt about, what you need to be doing. Our prophetic daughter, who was just really just knew things. We would listen to her because she was very sensitive. She sensed the past, she sensed the future. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not the issue. She walked up to her Susan mom one day and said, Mom, do you remember when I was your mom and you were my baby? She would just know stuff. And then our two feelers were just very active. My son would tumble on the ground, even if it was 3 feet away and he caught the football. He still wanted to have contact and feel it and express himself in that way. So it's just very beautiful to see how all these things interplay. And one of the things that you can do is to begin to take a look at some of the things we've talked about in the webinar tonight, see how that applies to you. And go to the next one too, Roger.
Okay.
That's a way.
As we go into the ways to learn more, we have people here from Iowa and Colorado and New Mexico, and so there's people from a lot of different places that we can share with them ways to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of different things that you can do. One of the first ways is a private consultation. This is a 1-hour session. It's all done through guidance. Your guides communicate with the consultant's guides, and that consultant gets impressions and answers from their guides or angels, and they write down on that chart that you see all the information you're going to be able to take home afterwards and use in your daily life. So one of the first things you find out about is your types of perception. What was the order that you were born with? You may have ideas and inklings of where you fit from where we shared tonight or other things that you've experienced with us, but it's so important to know how you were born into planet Earth as a soul with those perceptions, because we want to help you get back to that natural flow. You could have grown up in a very visionary environment, for example, where there was a lot of structure, religiousness or rigidity or what have you, that caused you to be very, very traditional about certain things. But that may be the natural you. So you may be a feeling person in that environment. So it's just really helpful to understand. You actually get a worksheet with a deeper description of each one of those so that you can start to recognize your strengths and areas you want to improve and balance in each area. And also, it's a good guide to help you understanding other people. You can get to the place where all of those perceptions are working 100% for you all the time, and you can feel that sense of balance in all those perceptions, moving away from the out-of-balance characteristics that we were referring to a little bit earlier. You also learn about your energy, how much positive energy, negative, uncommitted energy you have, what to do about all that, if there are any outside pressures that are overtly stymieing your growth and development. We look at that. We look at your sensitivity and how you can start to be more in command and discerning of what energy you're picking up that's working for you and what's actually working against you that you're not really discerning or knowing how to handle. Profile helps you with that. And then finally, we'll take a look at your guides. How many guides or angels you have in your team for this life, a little bit about each one. And then we do 2 techniques. One to help uplift your energy so it's more angel-like, and you know who you're communicating with. And that technique is like it can help you feel like a laser beam that just cuts through any kind of tension or negativity. That instant relaxation is very strong, and as you learn how to do that technique more and more every day. And then you learn a technique where you learn how to ask the specific right questions of your guidance and how to instantly get those answers right back. And you can tell that it's your guidance communicating with you and not just your own thoughts, because you can actually feel them communicating. So that chart can be done, that hour can be done in person. Ideally, it's done in person, if at all possible. Can't do it over the phone. The next best is Skype or FaceTime. And all you have to do is give one of us a call, and we can help you schedule that. My wife Susan, Diana does that, and actually Josie also does that profile. So we have a lot of, we have a colleague, Dorinda Fox in Albuquerque, who does it. There are a lot of people available all over the country that can help you with that, that energy. And on to the next one. And then one of the other ways is to get involved in the workshops and seminars and ongoing technique practice sessions that we're going to be forming on our tours. We have programs going on in Durango, Denver, Fort Collins, and Colorado Springs. Also, Susan and I will be going down to Albuquerque later in September. And this is where you can learn a lot of very practical tools, tools to put in your toolkit so you can feel more in charge of everything that's going on in your life, really be the captain of your own ship. You learn to practice working with your angels on a daily basis so that you can always know that you have backing to find the right answers you need. And it really is a feeling of an upliftment of your entire soul. And if there's healing that needs to take place, it comes naturally because you're connecting at this level. So for Durango and Albuquerque, you can visit our website at soul2soulliving.com. Go to the events, and there's a drop-down for Durango and Albuquerque right there. And Roger in Fort Collins and Denver, Colorado Springs, modernspiritualliving.com is a place you can find out what Roger and Diana are doing in September and October. Anything else about the ongoing sessions, Roger?
No, it's this particular tour of series of classes that Paul and I are doing in September and October in Colorado and Albuquerque are really focusing in on diving into understanding these gifts in more detail and how they work for you, as well as sessions on working with your angels and deepening that relationship. So it's very focused and fulfilling with that. Eventually, in October, November, we'll be back in Des Moines in central Iowa. There'll be classes and programs going on then, and we'll be sending out announcements so that those of you in Iowa will know what we're doing at that time as well.
All right, time to open it.
Yeah, anyone have questions? Feel free to type it in the chat. What I'm going to do is open the phone lines as well. If there's, just be alert as you talk. We're kind of a smaller group this evening. It's not overly massive. That if you have a question, then put it in the chat box or just unmute yourself on your phone or computer and fire away. And let's have your questions. Anybody have any questions?
Or comments?
Or comments. What did you learn? Anybody learn anything tonight? We must have done a really good job, Paul.
I think so. I think we got it. Yes, go ahead. Somebody was going to share something, I think.
Well, it's Josie, and just to sort of repeat myself, prophetics love to dance, and I'm also a feeler, and just to share that it's so powerful once I knew I was a feeler, because it just has changed my life in the sense that I used to just feel these things and I didn't have words for them, and so now I've learned how to, through my guidance, checking things out for myself, is this me, is this not me? Because as a feeler, I pick up all kinds of energy that's flown out in the cosmos and on planet Earth. So it's really wonderful to know that discernment. And I learned that through studying with the college, and also I've learned that through working with my guides. It's priceless. It's really changed my life. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share it with other people too, because it's very empowering to live my life purpose with joy, love, and freedom. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. But I can only speak for myself, right? So thank you.
Thank you again, Josie.
Hi, this is Dorinda calling in from New Mexico.
Hi, Dorinda.
Hey, I just wanted to give a high five to all of you, and I really back Josie's comments that she just made about life purpose. And I was going to ask if you had any additional insights on how knowing about your sensitivity can help you really engage and live your life purpose. And I also wanted to share that I'm high in vision. It's my first gift. I grew up in a prophetic and feeling household, and I thought I was prophetic, but I am someone who's always looking for a bigger picture. And the greatest healing for me as a visionary is to go out on a starry night and look up into the stars and become that feeling one with all things. It just, talk about harmony, it puts me in total touch with my feelings and the big picture. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, Dorinda, a little bit earlier, thank you very much for sharing that. Appreciate you being on the call. A little bit earlier, one of the things we kind of referenced in some ways that, we all have an amazing amount of ESP or psychic impressions on a daily, moment-by-moment basis. So we're like radio receivers and transmitters, so we're constantly sending out thoughts and feelings, and we're constantly being bombarded by all that. And so one of the things that the New Spiritual Horizons program does, which Josie referenced the Way Showers College, the New Spiritual Horizons program is actually a department of a greater entity that has hundreds of different courses and workshops and classes and consultations. The New Spiritual Horizons in particular focuses on how to be in command of that sensitivity so that we can truly understand what it is that's my energy and what I'm processing or even reacting to that actually is not my energy. So the different perceptions, or sometimes you've heard people refer to them as gifts. In the Bible, they talk about the gifts of the Spirit in the book of Corinthians, and Dr. Cole Leon decided to use that kind of name. And they really are kind of gifts anyway. It's an amazing feeling to be able to work with each one. But each gift has a way that it does discern and work with energy. And when you get to know that more, everything that you do becomes cleaner and clearer. If I'm working more on my own energy and I'm not carrying around a bag of everybody else's energy that gets really heavy, I'm not living other people's lives, in other words, my life purpose becomes very clear. It's much easier for me to stay on track and also know how to fit in with other people, especially the loved ones and the people that I care about that we're so sensitive to. What's my business and what's not my business? And living in a house full of ladies and women, I asked my father-in-law one time, who also had 4 daughters, what's the key to living with a house full of women? He says, well, love them and also mind your own business. And it was true. I do need to be able to be aware of what it is that is my energy and allow the other people around me to be themselves, to have that live and let live, even if I'm concerned about them. Sometimes they have to learn by the growing pains that they may go through, and there's nothing that I can do to stop that. So all those perceptions have their ways that they do that, Dorinda, and it's just, and in the group sessions, the ongoing classes that we work with, you see that happening regularly because you'll hear people sharing about their daily life, energy, and so on, and you find solutions by just hearing and being a part of things with other people that are going through the same kind of thing. So, Roger, anything else as we wrap it up?
Well, if there's any other questions, there again, I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. It takes a lot of effort to kind of break through and to take time for yourself, especially an hour of an evening. We've been going just slightly under an hour, so I really want to thank you all for attending and, want to encourage you to, like Paul was sharing, be the real you. Trust your own feelings. Don't try to live somebody else's life. Live the life that you want and, live your heart's desire. Because I found that early on in my middle 20s. I decided I wasn't going to please everyone else. I was going to please myself first and then everyone else and follow the path that I felt was right for me. And because of that, I had a wonderful lifestyle, and a lot of great things have happened because at different times when I made that decision, I followed my true feelings instead of what I should do. So there again, thanks a lot for being here tonight. And
thank you, everyone.
We'll be sending out an announcement, an email with the link. If you'd like to watch this video again and listen to different parts, we have recorded it. Yeah. Anything else, Paul?
No, it's great. Thanks for being on, everybody. Let us know how we can be of service.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Still there, Roger?
Yes. Okay, everybody's off now.
Okay, cool.
All right, well, cleanse and... Well, my key word for tonight was growth, and I could feel the growth from this afternoon. And it's much like I lose track of it, but if I want to be more effective with all this, I just need to be doing more of it so I can grow. And there's just no shortcut around it. And felt it was great. It felt like, you know, we still had about the same amount of time, but it kind of felt like the pace was better. Is just, I guess, the feeling to it. So I felt it was great. Felt the teamwork was good, and no issues with the people getting on this time. In addition to Josie and Dorinda, there was a Katie, a Rochelle, and a Wendy.
Great.
Who was on also. And
could you tell where they were calling from?
No, I couldn't. They were all pretty much online, but I'll compare the list, and I'll let you know.
Sure. Great. Okay, yeah, my keyword is action, and similar to you, it was great to be in action with this. Great to share, great to connect. I can feel that if this becomes some kind of a routine, that more and more people will get wind. You know, like the two groups in Des Moines, hey, we're going to have a webinar, bring a friend, support us, listen in. And just like Dorinda and Josie did, great to have them on. And just also having them on, added a little bit to the timing. I felt like everything flowed a little smoother, a little easier. That was nice to be able to experience and feel that. Great to hear the testimonials and make it practical, and yeah, just I think it's great. It's good to do more. A couple technical things. When I see the chat room, all I see